Hey, and welcome back to the challenge. Yes, I think this is the fifth one we're on now. It's been fantastic to see all your edits. Thank you so much for joining in, really appreciate it. I tell you what really helps me is if you could do a like or subscribe, whichever. It really helps with the YouTube ether, whatever it is, technology. But yeah, really appreciate that if you could do that. Thank you. But today we're going to do the challenge and I've added a couple extras in. A extra. So we've gone back to doing a landscape and a portrait because I think people had good fun with a portrait. So the landscape that I've chose today is a forest scene because I thought those people who like adding extra bits in, loads of space for you to add some animals into that thing. God, jeez, wonder what we're going to come up with. So there's a landscape and there's a portrait, and the portrait I've actually put into a forest scene as well. So you know, knock yourselves out, see what you can do with that. It's quite good. I'm going to run through what I did to the edits and show you how I edited both of those. If you just want to get started, go ahead. There's a link down below to the page for that. Don't forget that Challenge Me is still open. So if you want to send me one of your photos to edit and see what I come up with, then there's a link down below. Send it through. Be great to get involved. I'm banking up these as we go. There should be a video linked here, maybe, to the last one that I did. So have a look at that, see how we go. Okay, so here's the original raw file that we've got to work with. As you can see, forest scene, we've got a few silver birches in there, and this is what I did with it. I turned it black and white, I've hazed the top and etc. You'll see in a minute, and made those silver birches pop. Okay, so let's have a quick look. And we used Lightroom for this. It was a fairly quick edit. I've just pressed the reset button just to make sure that everything's reset. I sort of know what I wanted to do with this, so I turned it black and white straight away. We're going straight into working with curves, and we're just going to work on those. Now we're just going to go down to black and white and play with the colours that are in the scene and make certain bits disappear and certain bits punch as well. So I'm just going to turn on the remove chromatic abrasion. Going to just try the lens profile, but actually turn it on and off. I actually prefer it with it off, to be fair. So I'm going to leave that off. Going to go down now and just have a look with a little bit of light vignetting on. It's really heavy, but a bit lighter. I think about -3 is what I'm going to go for, something like that really. Just very, very subtle, it doesn't need much. So now I'm just playing with these sliders just to see what effect they have. So get the dehazing and see what effect it's actually doing to my scene, with or without it. And this will give me an idea. So I'm now just going to go to the brush and I'm going to paint an area. So now we've just painted that area in, just to create a bit of depth into this. Now I'm going to get the dehaze on just this mask. I'm just going to soften the background down a little bit into there. There we go. Now what that has brought into question doing that is the trees at the foreground. Actually, I don't want them to just go soft and disappear. I want them to pop into the scene. So I'm just removing the mask. So I'm just erasing it. For the whole tree trunks on these first like 3 or 4 trees I'm going to do it on, just to get rid of those so they still punch. Okay, so now I'm just going to mask this first little bit of the heathers here because I want those to pop out a little bit. So I have a little play with texture. Have a little play with clarity and see which I like the most. There we go, I can actually use a bit of dehaze and a bit of clarity just to make them sit. Here goes before and after. Very simple edit, not a lot else done to it. I just love those silver birches. I just love the colour off those leaves, especially in black and white. It just makes it pop. And there you go, final image, all done, all presented. Looking lovely. Let's see what you do. Okay, on to the portrait one now. So this was shot in the studio. It was part of a bigger scene that we were doing. But actually I thought it would be a bit of fun to drop this in. And this is the finished article that I've dropped into here. So I have looked at where the lighting is and to try and bring it in. So let's see how we did that. So I started off on the iPad using Affinity Photo. Dragged it in as a RAW. I'm just going to do some basic enhancements. I'm not worried about the background when I'm doing these enhancements. It's all about the model and how she looks. Okay, now I'm just going to do a quick mask and then refine the edges on the model so that I can cut her out properly. Okay, I've finished with the model now. We're just on to the landscape that I've chose for the background. This is another one of my images. It was just from a bluebell walk years ago, but I thought actually it's quite nice with the path there. It might just work quite well with this image. So again, just imported into Affinity Photo on the iPad, and I'm just gonna tweak it to how I like. Okay, I've actually switched over to the desktop now with Affinity Photo, mainly because it kept crashing out on the iPad, because obviously I was importing two massive RAWs and for some reason it's not working where it was used to with no problem. But hey, that's life, and I got a bit frustrated, so we switched over to desktop. So we've loaded in a background as a layer, and we've loaded in a model as a layer, and now we're going to look at where to position the model in the picture that's going to sit right and work, and we're going to work the scale out as well. So now I'm just going to add a bit of shadow into the floor area. So we're just going to get a brush and paint on into that bottom bit there. Now I'm just going to play around with brightness and tone, matching the two together. Okay, so now I want that dress that she's wearing to sort of match the colour of the bluebell. So now we're going to have a little muck about with just changing the colour tone of that. Now it's very easy on this, it's on a separate layer. The blue isn't anywhere else, so I can actually just change that and be selective on the colour change on that layer to match really, which will just make a pleasant change. Okay, so I've noticed the edge just isn't quite sitting quite right for me, so I'm just going into the mask and just tidying certain bits up, especially the edge of the skin on her right arm. I'm just going to go around and just blend that in. It got too much of a highlight on it, and it just wasn't sitting in with that scene at the back. Doesn't matter about the left hand side, that's fine. There's lights coming into that side, I expect it to be bright. But on the right hand side I don't want it actually bright there, so we're just blending that in. Now we're just going to blend in around the feet because that's not quite working for me as well. And we're probably going to darken it down just a little bit as well because they're just popping a little bit too much, a little bit too light on them. Now I'm just going to drag a lens flare in just to add into the picture there. So I'm just going through some different lens flares that I've got, and I'm just going to drop them onto the image when I choose one that I actually like. Okay, so we've got the lens flare just dropped in there. We're just going to position it and turn it round and scale it into the scene so it fits, and it fits in well. So obviously I'm looking at her light source as well as where that's coming from. And I don't want all that massive flare that's going off the screen, but I just want some subtle bits in there. I'm just going to pick a bit of smoke haze just for the bottom bit around where her feet is. Very, very subtle, but just add a little bit of contrast and texture. And there we have it, the final picture. And we'll just do a pan around that so you can see. Now, let's see what you do with that edit as well. Okay, hope you enjoyed those edits. Again, it's just me mucking about. Didn't spend too long doing those. We've moved through them quite quick. Let's see what you guys can come up with. I want to see your edits. So get on the case, get it sorted now. If you like this, thumbs up down below. Really appreciate it. Subscribe for any future bits and pieces, and look forward to seeing you all soon.